telling my stepmom she needs to accept she will never be the mom to a girl? My parents divorced when I, 15F, was a baby. My older brother was 2 at the time and he's now 17. Our dad remarried just over a year after the divorce and they created a blended family. Dad had us. Our stepmom had 2 boys who were pretty much the same age as my brother and me, and they have 3 more boys together. My parents split custody of my brother and me, and we always knew life with both parents. We also always knew life with our stepmom. But we still knew our mom was our mom and stepmom was stepmom. I have never considered my stepmom equal to my mom in my life. My mom comes first. If I want motherly advice, I go to her. It's my mom I want when I'm upset and stuff. My stepmom is fine, but she's just not my mom. One thing about my stepmom that really makes me awkward around her is she always wanted to be the mom or daughter. She has no girls. She apparently latched onto me from the time she and dad got serious, and my grandparents and aunts and uncles said she used to try and dress us in matching stuff. She has this weird fixation with me. She's not upset that my brother considers her second best, but it bothers her that I don't consider my mom. She tells me every year just before Mother's Day that she would love for me to call her on that day while I'm with Mom. She will also ask if I want to do some mother/daughter Mother's Day event with her every year, and I always say no. Then I get to see her face fall and she'll start to cry. I don't have that kind of love for her, and I'm not even sure I actually do love her. She makes me so uncomfortable with her obsession with me being a girl for her. My mom joined me for a mom and daughter photography trip my photography club hosted. We were gone for an entire day and had a great time. My stepmom saw photos of us on social media and she cried at me asking why I invited Mom when it wasn't even Mother's Day, so I could have invited/asked her instead, and we could have done something cool like that. She told me how much she longs to get the experience of being a mom to a daughter. I told my stepmom she needs to accept she will never be the mom to a girl, and I will always be my mom's daughter and not hers. She told me she has been in my life since I was a literal toddler and should see them both as my mom, when I spend the same amount of time with both. She said it's disgusting that I would reject her over and over again and then tear her down like that when she could easily be my second mom. Comment 1. NTA, stepkids should always have the most say in their relationship with their step-parents. Step-parents should be ready to take them on as a child like their own, or be understanding when step-kids want some distance. That's the deal you make when you're a step-parent. That said, this is also why we should cut step-parents slack when they aren't fitting our perfect vision of what a step-parent should be. You can't say love them like you own when the step-kids don't want to be loved like that. For example, a good step-parent is one that lets the child lead. Comment 2. As someone who has experienced this from the other side, this is obviously weird and unhealthy for you. But also, has anyone asked how her sons feel about this? A parent with a clear, and obsessive, preference for one gender makes their biological kids who are not that gender feel as if they've let them down just by existing. This woman needs a wake-up call. Comment 3. NTA. Stepmom here. We're not owed anything. You have your mom. Your stepmother needs to understand that she will never be able to replace her. I'd die before I'd ask my stepson to put me above his mother. He's mine and I love him with all my heart, but I also know that he has a mom. And I'd never expect to take her place. By the way, she doesn't want to be your second mom. She wants to be your mom, and that's impossible. The sooner she realizes that, the better. She's not owed the experience of being a mom to a daughter. Interrupting my husband's work call to watch his daughter who threw up in my car so I could make my orthopedic doctor appointment. My husband is a workaholic. He works from 8 to 6 every day with no lunch and travels 50 to 75% of the time. I am a stay-at-home mom with 3 kiddos, ages 8, 4 and 18 months. I do all the chores at home and also partially homeschool the 8-year-old. My husband never takes off work to help with the kids as I am a stay-at-home mom. Well, I tweaked my shoulder and it's been hurting for 4 months. I recently got a MRI and had my follow-up appointment scheduled. I didn't even bother asking him to take off to watch the kids because he never will, because he always has something going on at work, but I did book the appointment on the family schedule and told him about it in case a kid was sick. So I left the two older ones home with him as he was working from home. Well, my youngest vomited in the car after I'd been driving about 10 minutes. I texted him asking if he would take off work so I could still make my appointment, but he wouldn't respond. I was able to have my mom come over, and she was willing to watch the sick kiddo so I could make the appointment, but we couldn't figure out how to remove the car seat so we could wash it off. It was a new car seat, and I didn't have the time to YouTube how to get it out and still make my appointment, because at this time I would have been over 20 minutes late. Well, at this point I went into his office at home and asked him to get off his call, and he completely blew up at me. At this point I had already tried calling and texting him. I get that I shouldn't interrupt his work call, but parenting is an equal responsibility, and had she been in daycare one of us would have to pick her up. Plus he's on calls 75% of the day. Edited to add, I did ask my husband before I booked the appointment to watch the kids. He said he could, then last minute said he could only watch the two older ones. I assumed if he couldn't have interruptions then he wouldn't have agreed to watch an 8 and 4-year-old. My mom normally refuses to watch the babies. She will watch the kids when they are older but not babies. I used to work as a lead accountant, but when we had kids with my husband's travel I quit work because I didn't want my kids to spend all day in daycare, since I am essentially a single mom when he travels, and now with 3 I would use up all my sick days in a heartbeat because he would never agree to take off since he is the one earning more. We are on a budget, so paying for a babysitter is not an option. As to him being a workaholic, he works well over 10 hours a day on the days he's traveling and will not even call the kids every day as he's too busy at work or at client dinners. Also, even if he were in an office, if a kid was sick and I worked, one of us would have to pick up the kid from school or daycare. Emergencies happen. And yes, my mom in the end did agree to take care of the baby. I took her car, got to the appointment about 15 minutes late. But it was 90 in Texas and the 500 car seat would be trashed sitting in the sun, so he did end up taking it out. Comment 1. I'm pretty sure your husband's workaholic tendencies is precisely how you are able to be a stay-at-home mom full-time. If you want him to step up and do more childcare and work less, that's a conversation worth having. However, that would mean you would likely need to step up in certain ways yourself. If childcare should be fully equal in your eyes, shouldn't bills and financing be also? About the car seat thing. You could have either figured it out, you had no time to Google or eat but plenty to rush home and interrupt the call. Bullshit, or go to your appointment and deal with the seat later. This was not even remotely urgent and not worth interrupting. Comment 2. The amount of people who think a desk job is more important than a sick baby here is wild. And the amount of people talking about being a Zam mom of 3 young kids like it's some kind of luxury. It's also a full-time job and you all have no idea what their situation is. I can guarantee that if this dude that works 10 hours per day needed to take 1 to 2 hours off to take care of his sick kid, no one he works with would care enough for it to matter. And before anyone attacks my work ethic or whatever, I'm a consultant in NYC that works at least 45 hours every week. Your family should come first. NTA. Telling my parents they should ease up on treating my Sil like this isn't her first pregnancy? My brother Jake is married to my Sil Sam. Jake has 2 kids with his ex Ella, 11, and Micah, 9. They divorced when Micah was 4 months old and his ex passed away 3 years ago, which is when Sam met the kids. The kids have not taken to Sam. They are okay with her, but in no way do they treat her like she's their parent, and they also don't really treat her like a close family member. Sam accepts that the kids set the tone of the relationship, and she does her best to encourage a bond between her and them while not forcing it. I think she's really great at walking that line. But my parents have essentially decided she's now the kids' mom, and they have the same expectations that they would for someone who had been there since conception. This has really come through now that Sam is pregnant. She's scared. She's worried about the delivery and having a newborn, and she also worries about the kids and how they will respond to a new, half-sibling. My parents are always telling her she can do it, she has all the experience she needs, and she can see how close Ella and Mika are, so she shouldn't worry about their reaction to the baby because they will love him or her as much as they love each other. They brought up seeing her comment that this was her first time, and they told her that's not true and she already has 2 kids. The comment was about being pregnant, but they seemed to want to brush over it. I saw Sam recently and she was alone, so I asked her how she was doing. She admitted she was struggling and she is trying to drown out all the stuff my parents say, but since she doesn't have her own support network, her family put the mess in messy, a family and my parents are around so much, it's hard. She said she doesn't feel like she can be honest, that she's a bit lost and feels totally unprepared and worries about her abilities as a mom. She said they are so convinced she's already a mom, but while she does all the practical stuff, they don't rely on her for stuff the way the baby most likely will. I comforted her the best I could in that moment. Then I went and spoke to my parents and told them they need to ease up on Sam and treating her like this isn't her first pregnancy. I told them while yes, she's there and doing a lot of parenting duties for Ella and Micah, they were both in school when she met them and she has never been pregnant. I also pointed out they do not regard her as their mom, and the more they push that and insist on that, the more harm they could do to her relationship with the kids. My parents told me it was a terrible mindset to have, and blood is not what makes a family and blood does not make a parent. They said they are helping Sam and she will be glad for their advice later down the road, because it does no good to dwell on the first pregnancy when she is a mom. They were so offended and told me later that I was making things worse. Comment 1. NTA. Newborns and infants are totally different from kids in school, and birth is a whole other thing. Older parents can forget how scary and painful a first birth can be. No excuse. They need to validate her concerns and be positive and supportive without being dismissive. She's going to have to learn about breastfeeding, if that's her choice, and postpartum care, and be aware of symptoms of perinatal mood issues, and bond with a newborn, and get used to the temporary, or sometimes permanent, changes in her body, not to mention the hormone fluctuations that come after birth. They need to ease up. Stat. Comment 2. NTA. Blood doesn't make family, consent does, and Jake's children have made it clear they don't want Sam to be their new mom. Celebrating your Syl's first pregnancy does not erase her stepchildren, and your parents' behavior is cruel to both their grandkids and their daughter-in-law. Not flying my daughter home? My teen daughter plays on a select sports team. The team usually keeps their travel pretty local, within a tri-state area, but this year they are also playing some tournaments in Vegas. We live on the West Coast. One of the Vegas tournaments falls over President's Day. They will travel Friday and play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, traveling home Monday night or Tuesday morning. There is no school Friday, Monday, or Tuesday. On this team, the parents are responsible for travel costs, it's not included in the tuition. Now, the issue is I share custody with her dad, my ex-husband. We are week on/week off, with the transition being on Sundays. We also alternate holidays. So for this tournament, I have her Friday/Saturday, and she's supposed to go to him on Sunday. He has the holiday this year. He does not help with the costs for the sport, but has allowed her to participate the past 2 years. There have been times that tournaments have fallen on a split weekend, and we have always just agreed that she will go to whatever house she's switching to after the tournament ends on Sundays. Also for reference, tuition is $2,695 a season, which does not include flights, hotels, or team dinners. He is aware of when her tournaments are because we both get emails from the organization. I booked our flights for the Vegas tournament. We are flying Thursday night so we can have a little free time before the playing starts. And we are flying back late Monday night, because we have to pick an evening flight in case the team wins and plays in the last game, which is at 5 p.m. Monday. I emailed him the flight info and told him that since she is contractually obligated to play over part of his holiday weekend, I'm willing to extend his time the week after or give him another holiday if that's what he would prefer. He wrote back and said that he doesn't care when I come home, but our daughter needs to be on a plane Saturday PM so she can begin her week/have the holiday with him. I reminded him that in her contract she cannot miss a tournament, and that even if she was hurt or something she'd need to travel with the team. He continued telling me that I need to book her a flight for Saturday PM. I told him again that it is against the contract and that she is fined $1,000 for missing all or part of a tournament. I then said that he could even have her Christmas Eve and Christmas Day this year in exchange for President's Day. We don't really celebrate, so it doesn't really matter to me. I also told him he's welcome to fly down to Vegas and sent him the link to the team hotel/discount. He told me that if she doesn't fly home on Saturday night he's going to take me to court for contempt. I told him that's fine, she's staying with her team and will be home late Monday night. Comment 1. NTA. Your ex is obviously more interested in making power plays and sticking it to you than a relationship with his daughter. Let him take you to court. Let him explain to the judge why he's sabotaging your daughter's sports, which, BTW, could land her a very nice college scholarship if she excels. Comment 2. NTA, he's punishing his own kid in order to get back at you. It's so petty and destructive to children of divorced parents. Some kids who go through divorce do just fine when parents act like parents and put their pettiness aside, but when you have this kind of behavior, I hope he's willing to pay for therapy later. Comment 3. President's Day is not until February. You may have time to file a petition asking to modify the order of custody/visitation to allow her to attend the tournament during his parenting time. Let the judge decide whether or not she gets to go to the tournament.
Essentially telling my father my house, my rules. My elderly father lives with me and my husband. He does not like animals indoors. No allergies, just does not like them. My grown daughter lives 3.5 hours away and has a small lap dog. She plans to visit for 4 days over the Thanksgiving holiday and will be bringing her dog. I don't have a problem with this. My father said that Thanksgiving dinner will be ruined by having a disgusting dog in the home, and asked that we keep the dog in the garage or outside at all times. We live in a rural area, and the wooden fence around our yard would not contain the small dog. Alternatively, he has demanded that our daughter board her dog. I have spoken to her about this and she is not comfortable with the boarding or keeping the dog in the cold garage. I sat down with my father and said that this is my house and it is important to me that my daughter feels she is always welcome here, so he can suck it up for a few days. He accused me of not respecting his feelings and boundaries. My husband says we should not force my father to deal with the dog indoors since this is essentially his home too. Edit, my suggestion is to get a baby gate. The dog would not be allowed in the kitchen or dining room at all, and would be shut in daughter's room during meals. The dog is well groomed and will be freshly groomed/bathed before they visit. The dog gets excited with people and does like to jump at them for attention. However, my daughter is good about keeping her on a leash if she's overly excited. My father's compromise is to keep the dog in the garage with a space heater and dog bed. Comment 1. NTA. It is your home and it is your rules. Yes, it's his home too, but why do his boundaries trump everyone else's feelings? Also, this isn't boundaries. Boundaries are things that he can share about what he isn't okay with, and to enforce boundaries, you exit yourself from the situation. For example, if daughter brings the dog home, I will stay in a hotel and skip Thanksgiving. That is keeping with his boundaries. It's not controlling what other people do. He's not comfortable with the dog. He's removing himself from having to interact with said dog. To accommodate everyone at Thanksgiving, maybe have the dog in her room for just the meal? Would that be possible? Up comment. Yes, I have told him the dog would never be in the kitchen or dining room. The dog would be in the bedroom during meals. He is just not accepting anything as a compromise that includes the dog being indoors. Thank you for the level-headed clarification of boundaries. I think the stubborn insistence is making me second guess whether I'm being unreasonable or rigid. Your response helped me to sort this out. Comment 2. NTA. It is your home that you have opened to your father. Your father needs to respect what you told him your reasons are for allowing the dog in the house for the few days your daughter visits. Surely he can suck it up for 4 days in trade for his granddaughter's presence on the holiday. It's wonderful you have your elderly father living with you. This likely requires some adjustments on you and your husband's part. His accepting your daughter and her small dog for a brief visit is an adjustment your father also needs to make for the well-being of the family unit. He may have been used to ruling his own home, understandably, but this is now a home he is allowed to share with you and your husband where his word is not the only and final one.